Hello guys and welcome to another video, and today we are now going to be starting the Eastern Pacific off-season outlook and discussion. That is right, now every other day we'll be doing an off-season outlook and discussion for either the Atlantic or the Eastern Pacific. And right now we are going to take a look at those 3.4 region index. And as you can see, like I said, up and down yesterday. As you can see, it's slightly increased a little bit today, but in the grand scheme of things, this is still a moderate La Nina. And now that we're talking about the Eastern Pacific, this is going to have a big bearing on the Eastern Pacific, side of things as well. Not just the Atlantic, but this affects the Eastern Pacific as well. As you can see right now, we are at a value of negative 1.022, which is a moderate La Nina stage. So this will, what this will do for the Eastern Pacific is that it will induce a ton of wind shear in the area, or so, that's the normal, right? So we're going to see what happens with that going forward. All right, so is the Eastern Pacific MDR region temperature anomalies, and as you can see, it's slightly above average here. We're at a value of 0.149, which is not extremely above average. That's the start, pretty much the start of above average, and it looks like it's pretty much panned off here as we go forward through time. As you can see, that this has to do with the cooling of the sea surface temperatures in the Enzo region, and it's just, as you can see, it's just not there right now for the north part of it. Obviously, it's only March. I mean, those waters could still warm up a little bit from here. We're just gonna have to see how that all pans out a little bit later. All right, so here is the actual sea surface temperatures of the MDR region of the Eastern Pacific. And as you can see, like I said, there's major dips going on here. It started off at negative, not negative, but 26.6, 3 or 2, and it's just been up and down, but it's mostly been down instead of up. Like, yeah, there's a few lumps here that are going up, but in the grand scheme of things, the temperature of the Eastern Pacific MDR have been going down lately, and this could have a bearing on the hurricane season that's coming up. And the hurricane season starts in less than 2 months in that region, so we're gonna have to see how these temperatures will rebound as we go out through time, because right now it's on the very marginal side of conduciveness sea surface temperature wise for development here. We're at 26.183, which is not it's decent enough for tropical cyclone development, but it's not enough to really strengthen a system or keep it very strong. So if the Eastern Pacific and the MDR region, in their MDR region, wants to have a decent season, these are going to have to go up pretty decently as we go out through time. All right, so now we're going to take a look at this mineral coral reef sea surface temperature anomalies here. And as you can see here, you got your Enzo region down here, and you can clearly see that La Nina signature in that Enzo region. And some of those colder anomalies seep up north too, to like 12 north. So that's not a good look right there. Those are some pretty cold anomalies. But where we typically look here off of Mexico, there's some warm anomalies, and there's an ultra cool patch here near Central America in the southern parts of Mexico. As you can see, some of these sea surface temperatures are getting about 2 degrees above normal, so that's pretty toasty. Not off the charts, but enough to really keep your eye on it. And as you can see here, most of that cool warm anomalies are tracking west. So there's obviously some cool spots here too. So we're gonna have to see how that all mixes in with these going forward. But it's like I said, it's March 19th, anything can still happen between now and May 15th. So I will definitely be here to keep you guys posted on that. All right, so here are the actual sea surface temperatures. And as you can see here, we got 26s, 27s, 28s, and 29s here. These are pretty impressive for March 19th. So some of these water temperatures are definitely going to be good enough for tropical cyclone development as we head closer to the hurricane season in the eastern Pacific. And as you can see, down here in the equatorial Pacific region, those are 25s. So this is not conducive down here. But then again, near the equator, you don't really get things spinning up anyway, so you can count that as a blessing. But here in your typical, MDR spot, it's definitely warm enough for tropical cyclone genesis. But the only thing, like I said, we could be heading into a third-year La Nina, which will induce shear. Like last year, yeah, the Eastern Pacific had decent number of storms, but most of those storms underperformed majorly. Besides Linda and I forgot that other one, Felicia. Yeah, Felicia. Those two did not, underperform. Those actually went on to be uh, very classical looking, hurricanes. But yeah, I see some hurricanes happening for sure, but I think we're going to be below average in terms of everything else that has to do with the hurricane season because of the La Nina. We're just going to have to see how the La Nina persists throughout the season, and I'll be definitely keeping an eye out on that. All right, so here are the CFS total accumulated precipitation anomalies for the Eastern Pacific side, and we're gonna start here in April because we've seen the last couple of years that we've seen invest pop up in the month of April. So as you can see here, this is the intertropical convergence zone pretty much here. You could tell by the looks of it that that's actually what it is. And as you can see, there's some pretty decent precipitation anomalies here. And, this is a spot where a piece of this energy can definitely break off and, try to do something over here, around 15 north. So we're just going to have to see how that plans out. Okay, so here is May. And as you can see, now the precipitation has moved north here. You can see these pretty extreme amounts of precipitation anomalies here. This is like 14 inches here. So this is pretty nuts here. And as you can see here, you know, here in Central America, you can see the precipitation anomalies here. So this could be representation of a Central American gyre that's probably going to set up in the month of May that could induce a tropical cyclone in both the Eastern Pacific and Atlantic sides of the basins. We're just going to have to see how that all pans out later on. All right, so June is not looking too impressive as May was, but there's still precipitation out there. We're just this doesn't mean that we're not going to have an active June per se, but it looks like it's pretty light on the precipitation compared to May. And that's you want to see larger precipitation amounts and not less precipitation amounts if you want to see a tropical cyclone develop in those regions. All right, so no, we're not going to go past June because after that point it becomes totally cloudy. But what we're going to do now here is take a look at the bulk shear here. And as you can see, this is just a major pile of favorable wind shear here in most of the MDR, or not MDR region, but Eastern Pacific as a whole. And this is why you don't sleep on April, because April can definitely give you an invest, as we've seen the last couple of years. So we could have an opportunity to have another April invest. We just don't know yet. here we are in the month of May, and as you can see here, where you see this, you see all that, right? See the shear is pretty decent where some of that convection is, even near Central America, where that Central American gyre could set up here and help both the Atlantic and the Eastern Pacific, uh, form a cyclone. But as you can see, where most of the precipitation anomalies are, that's right on the cusp of the favorable and unfavorable shear. So we're gonna have to see how that all pans out. All right, so here is the month of June, and as you can see, we got some favorable conditions in typical suspect spots where the precipitation is. You can see the precipitation here around 10 north, and as you can see, we got semi-favorable conditions here where that precipitation is going to set up. So, you know, here you can see the precipitation here, right? Like, I think Mexico could probably see a landfall of a tropical system here in May or June if you take a look at those anomalies there. So I'm definitely going to keep informed on this for you guys. And like I said, from here on, you're going to get an off-season outlook and discussion every day. But I'm going to alternate between the Atlantic and the Eastern Pacific sides to see if anything changes. But the CFS, it updates every every day, about 2 times a day, sometimes three, depending on the day. So this is why I'm going to start doing these every other day in both basins. With that being said, I want to thank you guys for watching, and I'll be back again tomorrow with an Atlantic or off-season outlook and discussion. Hope you have a nice day, and thank you.